Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Parker. I'm going to be looking at your Miller's Tale responses, and you've been very active on those, so that's good. Um, and I think we can agree we all like Julie's cartoon that she sent with the text messages and everything. I'm going to I'm going to be nuts and start at the top and work my way down to the bottom this time, just to do something a little different. And start with Julie's responses. Um, did the bawdiness of the tale surprise you? Uh, yes, it did surprise you. Um, and yes, it is juvenile and it is foul and it is whatever you want to call it. The reason I ask that question is, especially I get this with some undergraduate students, but really with everybody, we tend to have a perception of prudishness that goes backwards in the sense that our parents were more squeamish about things than we, and then their parents, and you go back to the Victorian times. So we tend to project the further back you go, the more sort of sacred and holy people were. And in fact, of course, that's not the case, and it's more the case that things sort of swing in a pendulum. If you go all the way back to Victorian times and think how yeah, very buttoned up people were. But you go a little bit before that into the 18th century, especially was a time of extremely racy and risque literature and fashions and things like that, and even the Renaissance was. So I think one thing to keep in mind is that don't just assume that because something's older or from a time where the church was very prevalent. That's another thing that people sort of say is that this was such a churchy time, such a church dominated time, um, and that's certainly true. But I think it's also the case that people didn't segregate their lives so much. Your Sunday morning life wasn't as different from your Saturday night life as maybe sometimes people are in modern ages. But anyway, yeah, this tale is hysterical. But it's rude, it's juvenile, it's bawdy, it's everything you would expect a Miller's Tale to be. Number two, the Squire and Absalom. And the reason that I ask you to look at them together is that remember that at the beginning, or in the Miller's prologue to his tale, he says he's going to pay back the knight. He's going to quita the canista. He's going to pay back the knight for his tale. And my feeling is that somebody like the knight, if you made fun of him or his clothes or something, I don't think he would really care. But if you really want to tick somebody off, make fun of their kid. I dare you to go to a kid's soccer game, and make fun of some kid and call him fat or slow or something, and you will get punched in your face because people don't like that. So I think one of the things going on in the Miller's Tale is that if you A/B the descriptions of the Squire and Absalom, they're very, very similar to each other, from the hair to the kind of clothes to the kind of hobbies they have. And we talked about the Squire, that he's very much a ladies' man, and if not effeminate, at least kind of kind of a metrosexual in terms of what he likes to dress like and everything. And I think that by making the biggest idiot in the story look exactly like the knight's son, I think this is the Miller taking a dig at the knight. Number three, why does Allison like Nicholas instead of Absalom? I will ignore everybody's double and single entendres as best as I possibly can. Allison apparently likes a guy who takes control and goes after what he wants, and yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the kind of guy she likes. This sort of forceful bad boy type, and Nicholas is very good at reading women, and I think that if she were the kind of girl who needed candy and flowers and things like that, he would probably buy candy and flowers. I think he's just very, very intuitive about women and understands them. And unlike Absalom, who just doesn't get it, Nicholas can talk to her for a couple of minutes and figure out what approach would work with her. Number four, are we supposed to find the Miller's Tale as funny as the Miller seems to find it? And I don't know. I think Chaucer is I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he is stretching you a little bit here and trying to make you feel possibly uncomfortable because you're laughing sort of in spite of yourself. And I think maybe he's interrogating that feeling that we have when we laugh at somebody falls down and we laugh at them, even though we know, oh gosh, the poor fellow might be hurt. Nevertheless, we laugh at the misfortunes of others, and I think it may be that through the character of the miller, he's kind of getting us to think about that instinct, not necessarily that he's declaring it a bad one or a good one, but rather just getting us to wonder why. Why do we laugh at things like that? Uh, Subtleties from the miller. Absalom, yeah, I suppose the Absalom and Achitophel story may play into it, although I believe it or not, I've never read anything that says that. Um, Gervais, maybe. King John, maybe. King John was a long time ago. King John was right around 1215, so that's a good 150 years before Chaucer. Um, and again, Gervais, you have to sort of look at names and decide whether or not they're common or uncommon. Absalom's probably fairly uncommon. And I think I see the possibility of more of a connection there. Other subtle things I was thinking about. One thing that's easy to miss is when Allison finally agrees that she's going to have an affair with Nicholas, when she sort of agrees to commit adultery with him, she swears by St. Thomas of Kent. And St. Thomas, of course, is Thomas of Canterbury, Thomas Becket. So the miller has his wicked little heroine swear by the very saint that they're supposed to be going to venerate and visit that she is going to, break her marriage vows. So that's the kind of thing I feel like the miller throws out there to see how is the nun reacting to this? How is the parson reacting to this? I think he likes to sort of cause problems in that way. Yeah, what do you think of the miller's worldview versus the knight's? And I think I'm with you on this. The Miller's is more realistic. I mean, the Miller is kind of gross. He's very gross. But he is probably describing a world that's a little bit more like Chaucer's world than what the knight would describe. Um, there are other things going on too that I think other people mentioned, so I'll wait to talk about those. But yeah, overall, I certainly agree with this. Um, Sarah agrees with you that Allison is interested in lust rather than love. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know whether Allison's got much of a feel or a need for love. I mean, she is financially she's being taken care of by John, and then her needs are probably not being her sexual needs are not being taken care of John, but she's found someone else. I don't know if she's got romantic needs. I mean, I guess it depends on your philosophy of life. Do you think that everybody has romantic needs? I don't know. One of the things that's pointed out a lot is that when Allison is described, she is most often compared to animals, a colt, a swallow, a weasel, and that this is meant to emphasize that she's sort of governed by animal passions more than sort of intellectual ones or spiritual ones. And I think that's probably pretty apt. Sarah also agrees that the Miller's Tale is more realistic. Um, Susanna, yes, yeah, Allison's not afraid of getting pregnant. Yeah, but I mean, I think because for a lot of reasons, but one of which is that if she does get pregnant, she can claim that it's her husband's, and there's no DNA testing or anything like that to prove her wrong. I think that her husband would know, but he couldn't say any. That would be one of those sort of humiliating things. If you claim that you know that your wife's pregnant by someone else because you've never had sex with her, then you've lost whatever kind of manhood you're trying to recover. Um, Now, when you talk about right that when people women of the lower classes generally were having sex before marriage, kind of to see if they were fertile. And Allison, I don't know. I think Allison falls somewhere in between. She's part of this, or has become anyway, part of this middle class where they can have a companion at marriage, where they can marry not because they have to be upper class and link two families together, and not because they need a bunch of hands to work on the farm, but they actually are free to marry for love and happiness, although I don't think that that's what she's done. Um, but your question's a good one. I wonder if she was not a practical choice for men had she sort of been around in other ways. One of the things we'll talk about later is that the wife of Bath is also named Allison. And I think I mentioned before, this idea that maybe they're similar. The wife of Bath also seems not to have had any children. And one of the big things that we talk about with her is that she keeps claiming that it's okay for her to have so many husbands and to have so much sex because the Bible says to be fruitful and multiply, and yet she doesn't ever seem to be multiplying, which now we would say, well, there's some biological medical condition, but I think back then they would have seen it as kind of a fault on her part. So, and Julie points out that married women back then probably don't have to worry about um, explaining their pregnancies. Yeah, I think the point is what Allison would have to worry about would be that John might know, her husband might know, but as we said, he can't really say anything because what kind of man are you if you say, I know that's not my baby because I haven't touched my wife in bed? Then I think you're undoing any kind of good you're trying to do through that accusation. Okay, and Susanna's, and I've even been publishing since I looked at this last. That's great. Um, yes, Susanna was not surprised because I had already um, ruined her young adulthood in undergraduate. So yeah, they're bathroom humor, crass behavior, sexuality, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to probably get repetitious. Suzanne has pointed out the similarities between the looks with the squire and the fact that the miller is probably is mocking the knight in his tale, which of course I think is probably right. Um, Allison is used to being treated in a lower class, so maybe she's not used to the kind of thing that Absalom is doing for her, and that may be right. I mean, maybe she just doesn't know what to do when a man approaches her with flowers and candy and stuff. Lest you think that Absalom is being very chivalrous, though, not only does he offer all these things, but there's a line where it says, and because she was from town, he offered money, which I think is meant to say because she's not a country girl. She's been around, although she is kind of a country girl. She's a small town girl. Feel a song coming on, but she is. But he offers money, so it's please don't think that he's being a great guy and trying to do things the right way. He's trying to get what Nicholas is trying to get. He just doesn't know exactly how to do that. Nicholas, yes, he thacks her about the lens. He gives her a spanking. And yes, this is ungentlemanly, is one way to put it, to say the least. Chaucer, yeah, Chaucer, we know that Chaucer thinks the miller is kind of a churl because he says it in the general prologue, and he has other people say it in the miller's prologue. The host says someone else should respond rather than the miller. Certainly, this is the problem. And I like your image of everybody sort of like the miller's yelling. Everybody's kind of giving each other the side eye and saying, do you want to do anything about it? Because remember, this guy is big and strong and he wins wrestling matches. So aside from the knight, I'm not sure there's anybody, and maybe the squire, anybody who would be willing to take him on. And the knight seems to be willing to live and let live. The miller and audience awareness. You talk about the one difference between the description of the squire and Absalom is that when we hear about Absalom, We hear he is somewhat squeamish of farting, which is not a detail that normally gets passed around. Um, and so, yeah, I'm sorry, we're having a plague of frogs uh, in my house for some reason outside. So that's what you're hearing. Number 6, I think the Miller is honest about some parts of people's behavior. Yeah, he is realistic in a way that the Knight's just not. And to be fair, the Knight's not trying to portray contemporary society, and he is doing kind of a once upon a time long ago, where we always tend to attribute slightly more genteel behaviors to people. This is going to be really rude for a second, but I need to answer a